there's thunder, there's lightning. John Notto. I read about something here recently that I wasn't real familiar with, but understood the concept, didn't realize it had a name. Something referred to as the optimism bias. The optimism bias is also known as unrealistic or comparative optimism. It's a cognitive bias that causes a person to believe that they are at less risk of experiencing a negative event compared to others. Now, I bring that up because oftentimes in the community we talk about first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. And in times past, and here recently at work, the subject of marriage, children, relationships got brought up. They do. And I made the mistake of entertaining questions and getting involved in said discussion. And I played it pretty low. I didn't go into a whole lot of detail. I certainly didn't mention MGTOW. But it was interesting because the two people that were, one male and one female, that were just convinced that they just couldn't understand. You mean you don't want to get married, you don't want to have kids. As usual, the same flurry of responses that I'm sure we've all heard. Oh, you just haven't met the right person. Oh, you'll change your mind. You'll meet somebody that'll just sweep you off your feet. And the trouble with that is that these things have already happened for me. I've met people in the past that just, blew me away. I just thought they were so great and so wonderful. And after having had that happen 5 or 6 times, I started to realize that there was nothing special about any of this. That there wasn't any kind of magical, chosen one or anything like that. That it's all, a process in the mind, a process in the brain designed to get you to procreate. We all know the science and biology and the chemical side of things behind all this, and we know that the so-called feeling of love can be as powerful and is comparative in some ways to some of the most powerful drugs out there. But those drugs, like any drug, eventually wears off, and you go from this elated feeling to this crash. But it was funny because people that were convinced that, you'll change your mind, you're making a poor decision, you won't be able to hold strong enough to stand by those things. Both of them had been married more than once. Now, in the case of the female, she made out okay. She actually ended up marrying a guy that makes quite a bit of money, and he brought his kids from the previous relationship into this marriage. The other guy, though, had been married, I think, more than once, possibly twice, I'm not sure. But the point is one thing I've noticed about him is he's constantly broke. To the point that, we all try to go out and have lunch or something, and somebody's always picking up the tab for him. Or he's always talking about how he slept on the couch the night before, or how he had to go to a relative's house. And yet he was convinced that, marriage is and continues to be a good idea. In fact, he's in a relationship with somebody right now that I'm sure he'll make the mistake of getting married to, and this being the 3rd time he's been married at this point. So apparently he's not learned his lesson. But what that tells me is that these people that think this, it's even true of people that have already had these things happen to them. But particularly, others that I know, they have that optimism bias. Well, I won't get duped. I'll meet the right girl. I'll vet her really good. I'll vet her as well as they vetted the Syrian refugees in Belgium and France. And, I won't get the wool pulled over my eyes. I'll meet the right girl. Well, my girl's not like that. That might be somebody else's girl. And they never believe it can happen to them, despite the fact that even celebrities, Johnny Depp, Elon Musk, countless others who have all the money and status and power and looks, and it's still not enough for even the average woman. But it'll never happen to them. They think that somehow they are above all that. Been talking to a real good friend of mine here recently. He's one of the few people that I really feel is left that knows what honor and loyalty and the word pals, if you'll allow me to quote Young Guns, is all about. And this guy just went through a really, let's say it was a bad breakup. It was an average breakup. It's just that it's his first breakup with a girl that he was really into. And I've mentioned him before and the situation, but Essentially, he felt hard for this girl, which I knew was going to happen. And I know all the reasons behind why his relationship didn't work out. But yet he has so few relationships and so little relationship experience that he's still like muddling through the mind about what happened and still trying to figure it out. Although, interestingly enough, somehow or another, I don't know if it was through me or through his own research, I know that I've thrown MGTOW and the red pill at him before. And I've, in all this going on, he's obviously read a lot about it and familiar with it. And he's obviously waking up to something. He's on the verge of figuring something out, an event horizon, if you will. And it's interesting because MGTOW is so prominent now and rising, and so many guys are waking up to the truth that, what took me a couple of years and a couple of relationships to figure out, this guy goes through one bad relationship and he's already on the track to possibly being MGTOW or possibly waking up. I do think that, honestly, I think if this girl asked her to take her back tomorrow, he probably would. I mean, he's not quite there. He's still struggling quite a bit. He's still, it's kind of like, and I may have mentioned this before, Hoyt in Training Day. It can't be this way. It can't be. And Alonzo responds with, "I'm sorry to show you the truth, but it is." So he's still in a lot of shock about that. And he could possibly be kind of like Cypher, maybe, where he exits the Matrix only to want to go back because the truth isn't as alluring as maybe he thought. And that's the thing that I've found, that most people act like they would readily accept the truth, and we've talked about that here before. The reality of it is that the truth has probably started more fights than anything else, more wars than anything else, because people willingly want to remain, ignorant, willfully ignorant. Carl Sagan once said, "It is far better to grasp the universe as it really is than to persist in delusion, however satisfying and reassuring." And that's at the heart of MGTOW. What is the truth? What are the facts? And so, but a lot of people will fight you on the truth. I mean, look at some of the greatest truth tellers ever. They told the truth, and what did they get for their troubles? Assassinated. So we think that people will look at us as these noble and great people because we brought them this truth and this revelation, but in reality, they scorn us oftentimes because most people are not ready to unplug. Most people are not ready to pull away and wake up. It's simply easier to believe that, maybe you just met the wrong person, or maybe things will be different next time. But again, it's that optimism bias, and for most of our lives, we've been told that things were one way when they were really another. It's like a perpetual claw game where you think, one more quarter, I've almost got it. It's like an amusement park where they make it seem like you're so close to winning, but in reality, you're just, giving them another $5 to throw the ball at the glass bottles. And it's rigged the whole way. You're never going to win. For women, it's like a car lot. They walk on a car lot and they've got their pick of any brand new vehicle. But the problem for most women is that the one vehicle they want isn't there. For guys, the dating world has become worse than it's ever been. And the picking very slim for any decent, loyal woman with any kind of integrity or morals. For guys, trying to find a decent woman to have a relationship with is like trying to find a decent movie in the $5 Walmart bin. My friend is definitely going through red pill rage right now. He's got a lot of anger. And that's because over the years he's gotten a lot of bad info. Again, we are told one thing because it benefits somebody else to keep us in the narrative, to keep us thinking that we can win the game. We just need to play longer. It's, that's essentially what we're looking at here. And you need to realize that the culture is not your friend. Terrence McKenna once said the culture is not your friend. And it's not. The culture doesn't care about you. The society is looking to progress itself and not you. So that's where we're at. And I'm hoping that my friend will work through the things that he's dealing with right now. But I've come to realize that you really cannot tell people about MGTOW. You cannot really explain the red pill. It's something that I feel must be experienced. It's almost revelatory in its nature, because I think that even a couple years ago, I would have had that optimism bias myself. I would have thought, well, I just keep meeting the wrong types of people. And I probably would not have believed it myself had I not experienced these things firsthand. And then it only corroborates what I've already learned and found out about things when I hear that countless other guys have gone through the same situation. It is the Tao of MGTOW. And anyone who's familiar with the Tao Te Ching or the Tao, in the same way, the philosophy of MGTOW, if you will, is similar. The Tao of MGTOW cannot be spoken. Those who know, those who say don't know, and those who know don't say. And so you really cannot answer those questions when people ask you, you really don't want to get married, you really don't want to have kids. They don't understand it, they don't get it. They have not seen what you have seen. And in the same way, you can warn friends, you can talk to friends, but the reality of it is that they're not going to understand it. They're not going to really be able to walk in that truth until they've experienced it themselves and they've come to the conclusion on their own and they want to accept the truth. The truth can be presented, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee that it will be received. Being presented with the truth and receiving the truth are two different things. And so, I think it's good that we have a community to be able to bounce ideas back and forth, with one another, and to, in some way, support one another, and perhaps bring about insights that, maybe I wouldn't have thought of or somebody else wouldn't have thought of. But ultimately, we are the voice crying in the wilderness, and it's up to others to receive and accept the truth that we found. And they're going to have to do it on their own. It's just been my experience that most people, they will wait to the last minute, at all possible the last minute, to step out of that comfortable place they're in and really start thinking about it, analyzing the reality of things. And even then, it may take weeks, months, possibly even years after saying, well, yeah, it's probably all true, before they really and truly accept it and are content and peaceful with it. A lot of people deal with red pill rage for long periods of time. Well, that's all I've got for this week. I appreciate all the support and everything I've been getting lately. This has been the Days of Thunder. I'm John Nada, and remember, you're free to do as you're told.